5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Main engine start and liftoff of the Delta II rocket with the MAP spacecraft, exploring the past and future of our universe. Guidance system has started. Pitch program is in. Roll program is in. Initially, smooth flight being reported. Solid motors are now at maximum thrust.
Space, the final frontier, or so we are told. Yet recent discoveries by scientists are leading us to some startling conclusions. Even more surprising is that early humans seem to have been aware of this fact. I'm Andrew Collins. Come with us now as we explore one of the greatest discoveries of our time, the Cygnus mystery.
The origin of human civilization has long been one of the most intriguing and important mysteries of history. Science writer Andrew Collins has identified the earliest traces of civilization near Lake Van in southeastern Turkey, dated to 7,000 to 10,000 years ago. This enigmatic group of people, known as the Nephilim, are explained in the Bible as the offspring of the legendary Watchers and mortal women. But Collins' investigations have led to an even deeper mystery. Collins has found a relationship between sudden leaps in human evolution and a phenomenon created by specific stars in the northern constellation known as Cygnus. The first clues that led to this startling discovery were found in Turkey at the oldest and most mysterious ruins ever uncovered.
The Cygnus mystery began for me when in 2004 I visited Göbekli Tepe, which is being billed as the oldest temple anywhere in the world. Constructed around 9500 BC, that's several thousand years before either the Great Pyramid or Stonehenge. It consists of a series of subsurface buildings that had roofs that were held up by T-shaped stone pillars that were beautifully carved with different animals. It is a total enigma, this place, as to what its function was, other than the fact that it may have served as a religious point of coming together of clans and peoples from a very wide area. I visited this site and others like it that have been constructed either at a slightly later date, or of which have only just been uncovered, only within the past few years. And I wanted to try and get into the minds of the people that created these places. Coming to Göbekli Tepe for the first time, you start to realise that you only have half the answers, and that there was something bigger going on here that I needed to know about. And this played on my mind for some days after my return from Turkey, and one particular night I just had images of Göbekli Tepe and other places that we'd visited going around my mind, and just suddenly it came to me. And this was the fact that this site and the others all seem to be orientated towards the north. Now that in itself might not seem significant. What is important is that thousands of years later, in the very same area where these unique temples were constructed, a peoples known as the Sabians rose. Now they were star worshippers. Now what's so significant about the Sabians and their descendants is that they all venerated the north in celebrations they knew as the mystery of the north. They saw the north as the place of the primal cause. It was the place of heaven, and it was the place where the soul returned in death, symbolised by a bird. And they would see the soul journeying to the north in the form of this bird.
As Collins examined the possible astronomical alignments at Göbekli Tepe, the constellation of Cygnus became the only possibility for the celestial bird of the north. Cygnus is comprised of a host of stars, including Deneb. Deneb is seen in the heart of the Milky Way near the area known as the Great Rift, which is a dark split in the Milky Way nearly devoid of stars. Earth lies near the outer rim of our galaxy, and the Milky Way represents our nighttime view deep into the center of our own spiral galaxy. In ancient religious belief systems, this stunning band of stars represented a magical pathway.
For them, it was universally seen as a road or river to the stars, and more specifically to the sky world, to heaven, to the afterlife. And what's so important about its relationship to Cygnus is that in its most northerly extension, exactly at a place where the Milky Way breaks in two, calls through this so-called dark rift or great rift of nebulous clouds and dust, which forms like this dark region. Here is placed the stars of Cygnus, and it was here that was the entrance or exit into the sky world. Unanimously around the world, it was seen as a bird, a cosmic bird, a bird of first creation, a bird of life and of death and of rebirth, a bird that symbolised the transformation of the soul in death across the world, in shamanic traditions, in indigenous cultures. The stars of Cygnus, in particular Deneb, its brightest star, was considered to be like a hole, an entry point, a doorway, a window into the sky world.
The area of science that investigates the astronomical alignments of archaeological structures is called archaeoastronomy. Sites such as Stonehenge, Giza, and numerous American mounds and earthworks have all shown extensive alignments with the sun, moon, and various stars. If Collins' idea that Cygnus was the soul's portal into the sky world is correct, then other ancient religious sites should show alignments to Cygnus. A host of archaeoastronomers have found that many ancient ruins do, in fact, align to the specific stars of Cygnus. And Collins' own investigations have confirmed that dozens of sacred ancient sites were built to align with Cygnus.
In Great Britain, a large number of megalithic or prehistoric sites are actually aligned in some way to Cygnus. For instance, Avebury, which is Britain's largest stone circle in the southern part of the country, its axis has been found to align perfectly to the setting of Deneb, which is the brightest star of Cygnus. This was discovered in the 1960s by archaeoastronomer Alexander Thom. Another site, this time in Scotland, which seems to be aligned to one of the stars of Cygnus, is Callanish, a very beautiful cruciform-shaped stone circle on the Isle of Lewis in the Scottish Western Isles. And this is very subtly aligned to the rising of the star Sadir, which is the centre star in the middle of the constellation of Cygnus. And to try and understand why the builders of Callanish might have aligned this huge site towards that star itself creates the idea that Cygnus must have had a very special place in the minds of our most distant ancestors. Now, Callanish dates to around 3000 BC, to which this alignment refers. What is arguably the most impressive and well-known prehistoric monument in Ireland is the Newgrange Passage grave, around which is a stone circle that is almost identical in size to the two inner circles of Avebury. And what is so interesting about Newgrange is that it has been found to be an exact representation, as found within its inner chambers, of the position of the stars of Cygnus, and its entrance, although orientated towards the incoming light of the sun at midwinter, just after sunrise, if you extend that line a matter of several miles, you'll come within the same ritualistic landscape to another passage grave known as Four Knocks. And this also has an interior passage which is orientated, but this one is orientated far too north for it to be associated with the sun. And when the Earth Mystery researcher Anthony Murphy looked into this subject, he found that it was aligned perfectly to the rising of Deneb, the brightest star of Cygnus. And what's so interesting here is that Newgrange and the landscape around it is integrally connected with legends associated with swans and swan maidens, and figures people turning into swans. Another site that is aligned to Deneb, the brightest star of Cygnus, in southern Britain, is Wayland Smithy Longbarrow, which is located just a few miles away from Avebury. Wayland Smithy dates to around 3700 BC. It is named after Wayland, who is the divine smith in Germanic and Norse tradition. He obtains astral flight in the main legend associated with him by adorning the feathers of the wings and feathers of a swan.
Professor John North determined that Wayland Smithy's northern alignment in 4000 BC was to the setting of Cygnus' brightest star, Deneb. But Collins' investigations into the mythology of the swan as a carrier of souls went far beyond archaeological sites in the United Kingdom. He found that ancient Hindu temples mirrored the belief that the northern sky was the abode of heaven, and that swans, as a representation of Cygnus, were associated with creation and the transport of souls. Collins also discovered that in Chinese astronomy, Cygnus was apparently seen as the heart of the ultimate junction of the Milky Way. It was the origin and destination point of all souls. The dating of this Chinese astronomical belief goes back to 16,000 BC, a time when Deneb was itself the pole star. As it became increasingly clear that Cygnus was the key to understanding many ancient religious beliefs and rituals about life and death, Collins came to the conclusion that ancient Egyptian sites and beliefs also showed a direct link to Cygnus.
We find that in ancient Egypt, the constellation of Cygnus was very important. It was primarily the sacred falcon in the sky, which went under various names of Horus or Sokar, and that this was reflected on the ground in the region of the Giza Plateau, where the Great Pyramid and its two other companions were found. You can actually overlay the stars of Cygnus, or the principal stars, over the three pyramids exactly, absolutely perfectly. If you take a line from the position of the three pyramids towards the northeastern horizon, we find that Deneb, the brightest star of Cygnus, rises up perfectly from the position of Egypt's very ancient cult centre of Heliopolis, which was associated with death and rebirth through its image of the phoenix, the bird of rebirth that was seen to rise up. What is also significant is that the orientation of the three pyramids, if extended towards the northwestern horizon, we find that the stars of Cygnus set precisely in alignment with those three pyramids.
Perhaps the most surprising ancient sites and religious belief systems to directly relate to Cygnus are found in the Americas. Indigenous cultures in South, Central, and North America all showed a distinctive pattern showing that Cygnus and its special position in the Milky Way was seen as a spirit path leading to heaven. For example, the Inca site of Cuzco in the Andes Mountains of Peru is known to be constructed to represent a sacred landscape effigy in the shape of a puma. Sacsayhuaman, the hilltop fortress at Cuzco, represents the head of the puma with massive blocks of stone along its northernmost walls forming the cat's teeth. Even today, religious festivals held at Cuzco honor the supernatural beings that move through the dark and light regions of the Milky Way. But the constellation represented by the Inca puma was a mystery until quite recently. In 2003, an Italian professor of physics, Giulio Magli, solved the mystery of the Cuzco puma. The Inca's center of origin, represented by Cuzco's sacred landscape, was at the Great Rift in the Milky Way, the location of Cygnus. While Collins was surprised at the findings from Cuzco, as he moved further north in the Americas, he discovered more links to Cygnus in both Olmec and Maya cultures.
In Mesoamerican tradition, we find that Cygnus has played a role for at least 4,000 years. But in this case, it shared its role with the constellation of Ursa Major, the Plough or Big Dipper, and the two sparred around each other and were associated with cosmic cycles of time. these two constellations were represented in symbolic form amongst the Olmec, quite specifically upon the so-called were-jaguar, images and carvings of the were-jaguar. The were-jaguar itself, due to the spots all over it, has been considered a representation of the night sky. It is a symbol of the transformation of the shaman into an astral state for journeys into the cosmos. La Venta, which is one of the primary sites of the Olmec, reflects this influence of Cygnus and Ursa Major. It is aligned precisely 8 degrees off of true north, and in around 1000 BC, when this particular alignment was created on the ground, this reflected the setting stars of Ursa Major, but also a mound was specifically placed to reflect the setting of the star Sadir, the centre of the cross star of Cygnus, as well at the same time. In Mayan tradition, Cygnus played a slightly different role. It seems to be associated with a bird that sat at the top of the world tree, the cosmic tree. The sun itself was seen to be reborn periodically as an egg, a sun egg, which could easily be seen as being born of the cosmic bird, as it is in various other traditions around the world. And this dovetails very interestingly into the modern concept of 2012 and the idea that on the 21st of December 2012, the end of the Mayan long count cycle, the so-called Bactun cycle, will signal not just the end of one time cycle but the beginning of a new. But the sun will be seen upon the horizon as it rises up to align perfectly to the centre of our galaxy. But what a lot of the key New Age archaeologists involved in this have not yet recognised is the fact that the tube along which this sun is born is the Great Rift or Dark Rift, the place along the Milky Way that begins in the vicinity of the Cygnus constellation and opens up where exactly the sun is born at the time of 2012, therefore reflecting this whole idea of the cosmic bird giving birth to the sun egg, which will begin the new cycle of time for humanity. I came to realise the importance of Native American traditions to the Cygnus mystery by the fact that if Cygnus had been so important to our Paleolithic ancestors in the ancient world, then presumably it would have been carried onto the American continent as well and be preserved amongst Amerindian mythology and cosmology, and maybe even within the alignments of their sites. So I started to focus on one of the most ancient of the cultures of North America, who are the Hopewell. And what we find is that firstly they were the creators of a number of effigy mounds, which included those of birds. Interestingly, they also constructed bear effigy mounds as well. Whereas the bear effigy mounds have become associated with Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, those of the bird, which are found quite frequently in various states, have been associated with the constellation of Cygnus. Now this is quite intriguing because one of the most prominent bird effigy mounds can be found in the centre of a huge circular earthwork of Great Circle, or the fairgrounds, in Newark, Ohio. And here, right in the centre of it, is so-called Eagle Mound. And this is roughly or abstractly shaped like a bird or a bird's foot, and is orientated specifically towards the only exit of the circular earthwork, and that is roughly towards the midsummer sunrise. Now this is intriguing in itself, and upon visiting there in 2004, I wondered whether it was possible that the Hopewell peoples that constructed this place, approximately 100 BC, may have seen the eagle as in some way a psychopomp, a carrier of souls, through the point of exit up into the heavens. And it made me wonder whether it was possible that the Milky Way may have been seen through this same gap. I found that just 2 hours before sunrise on the summer solstice, the Milky Way would have been perpendicular, rising perfectly up from the position of this exit at Great Circle up into the sky, where directly above just in the northern heavens the stars of Cygnus would have been seen. To me this was all beyond coincidence, and to me Eagle Mound at the centre of Great Circle was unquestionably a representation of the Cygnus constellation, and reflected the whole belief among the early Native American peoples in the transmigration of the soul in a bird via the Milky Way to the stars of Cygnus.
The Great Circle in Newark is virtually the same size as England's Avebury Circle, and is also surrounded by a raised earthwork of land with a moat on its inside. This would be a remarkable coincidence, and it's possible that beliefs about Cygnus were carried to the Americas by the earliest people entering North America. The Blackfoot tribe of North America have legends of a wolf trail that was the path of souls. It was known as a ghost trail, a pathway for the dead to follow to the afterlife. The Blackfoot shield shows the wolf trail, with the Milky Way probably depicted as a crossbar connecting the earth on both ends, with the 4 primary directions shown. The human race is depicted as small dots on the earth. The center cross of the Blackfoot shield shows what is believed to be the Northern Cross in the center of the Milky Way. The Northern Cross is what Native Americans and others have sometimes called Cygnus. Precisely when the first Americans arrived is currently hotly debated, but no one doubts that they entered the Americas by 9500 BC, and new genetic evidence suggests that people may have entered thousands of years earlier. With this vast background of information confirming that Cygnus was the focal point of worldwide veneration, Collins was led to consider precisely when and why Cygnus had become so important. The answer was found in Europe, in deep caves with wall paintings depicting swans and other bird forms.
I first started realising that Cygnus X3 was important to prehistoric man when I was looking into the cave art of Western Europe that was constructed as long ago as 17,000 years ago, as far back as 33,000 years ago. And I wondered why the oldest known representation of a constellation is that of Cygnus. This can be found in the Lascaux caves in the Dordogne region of southern France. And here they are depicted, the cosmic bird, the celestial bird, upon a pole next to which is a birdman, a symbol of astral flight, astral journeying to the sky world, to heaven.
With Cygnus serving as the North Pole star in 17,000 BC, Collins came to believe that this was one reason why the constellation of the bird was seen as important to the ancients. But it didn't seem to explain why Cygnus was important to the ancients as long ago as 30,000 years, or why it retained its importance after it ceased to be the pole star. The sudden emergence of fantastic cave art 17,000 and 30,000 years ago was a profound advance in humanity. Clearly, something had changed, and Collins suspected that a sudden evolutionary leap had occurred in human DNA. The source of the genetic mutation that produced the evolutionary leap was apparently due to Cygnus.
So I started to look into the importance of deep caves, and it was then that I found that these caves, which are often hundreds of yards deep, penetrating very deeply into the ground itself, seem to have been the most sacred places to them. They seem to be going there for a reason, and this obviously was associated in some way with the achievement of altered states of consciousness, and in this state they would feel that they could journey back to the place of cosmic life and death. And so I tried to find out whether caves themselves had any kind of special property, and it was then that I realised that the only form of cosmic ray that actually reaches inside such deep caves were coming from a single source in the night sky, and this was Cygnus X3.
In the 1980s, underground particle detectors located at several spots around the world simultaneously recorded an unexpected and important discovery. Cosmic rays were found to be penetrating over 1,000 feet of solid rock above the underground facilities. This was thought to be impossible, but equipment repeatedly picked up a unique signal from the decaying cosmic particles. The source was soon identified. It was Cygnus X3, a binary star system located in the Cygnus constellation, and the unique cosmic particles were dubbed Cygnets, meaning children of the swan.
It's a fact that our eyes can see the disintegration of cosmic rays as they pass through our own retina. This will be seen in terms of a brief flash of light. Now, under normal circumstances we won't be aware of this, but in pitch dark you will be very much aware of this.
Collins theorizes that ancient shaman entering the dark world of the caves often took hallucinogenic mushrooms and watched as the decaying cosmic particles from Cygnus created fantastic flashes of light.
There was a reason why our earliest ancestors were going down into the deep caves, depicting Cygnus on the walls and performing their most sacred ceremonies, achieving their altered states of consciousness in the most deepest parts of those caves. There had to be a greater purpose for this as well, and it was almost by chance at this point that I came across information which showed me that cosmic rays reaching us from the Cygnus constellation, more specifically a binary star, Cygnus X3, was so strong that they were penetrating down through hundreds of yards of rock into chambers where particle detection facilities had been set up in the late 1970s, early 1980s. These cosmic rays will increase or decrease in accordance with the appearance in the sky of the actual source itself.
In simple terms, Collins believes that ancient Shaman could perceive the effects of its decaying cosmic particles when Cygnus was above the horizon. As it sank below the horizon, the Earth's mass blocked most of the cosmic rays from reaching deep into the caves. Over time, the ancients came to associate the appearance of Cygnus with a profound magical effect. But the effect of Cygnus's gun barrel was far more profound. It may well have been the spark of evolution.
Binary systems like Cygnus X3 are made up of two specific components. One of them is a very large star, which is known as a Wolf-Raynaud star, is in very close proximity to a star which has gone through the process of supernova and is now basically a dead star. And this dead star is either a neutron star or a black hole. It's not known specifically as yet which one it is, but both of these, and I suspect it probably is a neutron star, draw gas and particles from the larger companion and accrete it or steal it and form like rings of energy around the central core of the compact star, as it's known, either, as I say, a neutron star or a black hole. And the sucking in, the drawing in of this energy in some way, in a process that's still not properly understood, creates these enormous, these incredible jets of particles that shoot out in two directions, in opposite directions, along the axis of this compact star. And these are known as jets, or more specifically relativistic jets. And the word relativistic associates it with the idea that these jets, these particles, are shot out at close to the speed of light. And these have been photographed by space telescopes like Hubble, and they are quite spectacular. But normally they are only found outside of our own galaxy. There are one or two sources producing jets in our own galaxy, but usually these are pointing away from us so that we can actually see them. What's important about Cygnus X3 is that it's inside our own galaxy. It's only 30,000 light years away, which, although sounds like a long way away, is actually relatively close in astronomical terms. And one of its jets is pointing directly towards the Earth. These jets were like a cosmic gun barrel blasting the Earth with cosmic rays in a manner that apparently has been going on for anything up to 700,000 years.
Human DNA is altered in several naturalistic ways, including by radiation, exposure to chemicals, and natural flaws in DNA replication. Specific genes can be literally turned on and off like a light switch. Amino acids can be replaced by other amino acids, and portions of DNA can be expanded or deleted. It's completely accepted in science that cosmic rays can and do alter DNA. Since Cygnus is the source of the most powerful cosmic rays hitting Earth, it's likely that it has been responsible for altering DNA for thousands of years.
And this is caused because these tiny particles of radiation will affect our genetics, will affect our DNA.
Collins' speculations on Cygnus are supported by research showing a direct correlation between beryllium-10 levels recorded in ice cores from the Arctic with spurts in human development. Did the ancients know of these cosmic rays? Well, to begin to answer this question, we have to look at the levels of cosmic rays that have been recorded in Earth's history. And what we find is that during Paleolithic times, anywhere between say 40,000 years ago through to 14,000 years ago, there was an incredible increase in cosmic rays, twice the level that we are receiving today, with certain peaks around 40,000 years ago itself, and around 17,000 to 14,000 years ago. There are two peaks of activity. What's so interesting is that those peaks correspond to periods of great acceleration in human evolution. Our ideas relating to Cygnus X3 might seem quite bizarre, but it is certainly confirmed within the scientific world that Cygnus X3 is doing exactly what we're saying it's doing. Quite recently, Mike McCulloch, a scientist from Harvard University who has worked with NASA and various space telescopes around the world, has confirmed that Cygnus X3 is the first recorded microblazer known in this galaxy, and that the Cygnus, the cosmic rays, which we know to have been raining down on this Earth possibly for hundreds of thousands of years, may well have been as a result of the jets, the particle jets produced by Cygnus X3 within its cosmic gun barrel. A British anthropologist by the name of Dennis Montgomery, since the early 1990s, has been looking into very similar ideas, and he also recognised that cosmic rays may have been involved. Most importantly, he saw them as originating from the Cygnus constellation. The effects of cosmic rays upon our own genetics has led to mutations within the body, within the mind, within the brain, that has altered our perception of reality onto a level of perception not achieved before this time. Now, the idea that cosmic rays may have affected us is something which might sound quite alien, quite strange, something that is almost either new age or mad in some people's minds, although it is a fact that as early as 1973, one of the world's most respected astronomers, Carl Sagan, predicted that cosmic rays would have affected human evolution in the past, and that he noted in particular
neutron stars, of which almost certainly Cygnus X3 is an example, and that the particles coming from them may well have influenced the way that we are today over a very long period of time. The Cygnus mystery is one explanation of human evolution, or certainly the acceleration in human evolution.
Collins concedes that Cygnus is only one possible explanation for the sudden development in human civilization, but the correspondence between ancient cosmic ray levels and sudden evolutionary leaps in human technology and art are facts that strongly support his conclusions. If Collins is correct, he has solved some of the greatest mysteries of all time. The veneration of Cygnus in the remote past explains the enigmatic alignments of ancient religious sites. It explains why the swan, or a similar bird, was seen as a carrier of souls in many ancient cultures scattered around the world. It explains the ancient belief that a specific location in the Milky Way was the portal into the sky world. It explains why shaman entered dark caves to perform their most sacred rituals and paint representations of Cygnus on the walls. And it explains the sudden evolutionary leap in mankind. The confirmation of Collins' incredible findings will probably come from space scientists working all over the globe, combining their research with genetics. Astrophysicists have found evidence that the universe began with a Big Bang, and that everything that exists is made from the same material as the stars. The ancients believed that the source and destiny of each human soul was found in the stars. The Cygnus mystery tells us that the beliefs held by these enigmatic ancient people were probably more true than anyone has imagined.